All right, we are live. This is not Memorex, this is live. I am going to pop over and refresh these pages and share this out real quick while we're waiting for people to pop on. Hopefully we get a couple people on here. Hey, there we are. Okay, so that's shared. We're live on there. All righty, here we go. Oh, now I'm hearing an echo. It's probably because I got that other page open. Okay, that's muted. One more. If I can get there. All right. How's everybody doing tonight? Hey, Renee, how you doing? I figured I'd see you here. Thanks for popping on.
Hi, Miss Renee.
Hang on, I got to turn the volume down on the screen. Hey, Jolene. Thank you for popping on. Well, where in the heck? There it is. Okay. All right, got those windows open, so now I can see comments from everybody. Hey, Debbie, how you doing? Thanks for popping on. Tonight, we are talking about a long lost, forgotten serial killer. One who we discovered the other night has, well, I'm going to keep that a secret here for now. I got to hold that. We're going to talk about this person and see if anybody can guess who it is before we reveal our little secret of the identity. It's just kind of a little game we play over here.
Let's do an echo check.
On the Forgotten Serial Chronicles.
Anybody hear an echo that's like absolutely terrible?
On hers or on mine? My hair is a mess.
That's all right. Mine went in a ponytail.
Yeah, it may. I got one out. I was ready. Oh, it's got pocket lint on it too. How about that? Okay, that's gone.
Angel dust.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, we got to be careful using that term. I'm from the 70s, and remember.
True. All right, fair enough.
All right, Renee says all good. All right, all right, all right. Here we go. I'm gonna have to watch Matthew McConaughey on that movie so I can get closer.
Oh, that was such a great movie.
Which one was that?
All right. Dazed and Confused.
Dazed and Confused. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Definitely got to watch that again. Hey, Anne-Marie, thanks for stopping in. All right, girl. You know more than I do. I have kind of a general idea, from our discussion the other night, but this is where you take it.
All right, so
hey, George.
Super duper excited about this one. As you can tell, I'm not holding that in.
I am too. I'm smiling for some other reasons, but I'm not going to go into that here. Let's just say the weight of the world has been lifted off my shoulders. I had a good day. I've been smiling. I've been happy.
You have a
I only
fly in
bit
your
one
hair.
person's head off.
Good one, George.
Yep.
All right, so
Actually, I did get dive bombed by a fly at work. I mean, it just today. You can't make it up. Hey, Christy, how you doing, sis? Holla.
hi, Christy. All right, so let me just fix one thing here. Good. We ready?
Oh, yeah.
Are we really ready?
I think so. Are we ready, everybody?
We ready? We all ready to guess? All right. We have. We'll go with.
With what? You froze.
Yeah, I saw that. With stats first. So,
Okay.
our killer. He is a dirty blonde, 5'9", 220-pound Aquarian.
Definitely not me.
He is still alive. He is not deceased. In fact, he's actually serving 6 consecutive life sentences, along with a charge of 15 years of manslaughter. His date of birth is February 11th of 1970. He was born in
11.
Hampton, Virginia. Are you writing down all of your
No, I'm
stats
lighting
here?
incense. I'm right. I'm lighting incense here.
Good call. I'm gonna before I proceed, I will let you get that lit.
Okay.
Any guesses, Renee? Because you got the last one.
She got the last one right off.
Yes, she did.
She has a plethora of knowledge on these people.
Which is so awesome. Like, this is just, I always say it's morbid that these things are fun for me.
Hey, I kind of get a kick out of it too, so. Renee says William Devon Howell.
Yes. Good job, Renee. Renee, you are always going to be the guesser here.
Boom.
The next challenge will be for anyone who can get to that answer before Renee does.
Now, the interesting part about this guy's name, and we didn't put 2 and 2 together until we had our conversation the other night about this. The first name, William, is actually the same first name as a murder suspect on a cold case that we've been working on. So that was the first thing that made us stop and go, ugh.
Right.
And then the name Howell, last name Howell, there's a gentleman that works at a salvage yard just south of town by the name of Howell. And in this case, it is very possible that the van this person was driving was, parted out. Not by that guy, by somebody else. But it's just the coincidence of the names. And, he works at a salvage yard. It's just kind of interesting. So we came up with a lot of synchronicities with what we're doing and numbers. Again, you had February 11th, right? So you got 11 right off the bat. We got 11.
Yep.
211. What was
21170.
21170.
And see, that was the name Renee was going to send over to me. See, Renee, there's a connection, girl.
Okay, we got 4. We got 11, 12, 21. So he's a 3 life number. There's 3. Okay.
Yep.
You gotta keep track of these. 3.
You are the number man. This is totally all you. I will make sure I give you ample time to write down everything I give you. All right. So William, our killer, William Devon Howell. Now, the interesting thing also that connected the other night when we were talking about it is that there was an author that had written a book, got an exclusive interview with him, and her name, correlated on the same bracket. So that was another interesting aspect of this. So, Renee, since you knew who our killer was, do you know what he also went by or what he called himself? Because he gave himself his own nickname. Okay,
Which is actually another similarity with
Yep.
the case we're working on.
Well, and it correlates with like the synchronicities that we're going to translate tonight are just going to
Yeah,
be astounding.
absolutely. And they're at least really exciting for us. So we hope they're going to be exciting for you.
Exactly. Okay, so you're right, Renee. He called himself the Sick Ripper.
Okay, wait. I just thought of another correlation. Another friend of mine, his CB handle was Ripper.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's going to be funny when like I go through my list and we have these combinations constantly coming out.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting the further down the line we take this, like what we
It
discover.
it is because I'm already seeing in advance. I'm kind of being shown that I'm going to have a lot of similarities with a lot of these people.
Yeah. And Renee, with that, with your answer being correct about the Sick Ripper, do you know what he dubbed his 85 Econoline?
8. No, wait, 85, 13. That's 4.
We'll give her a minute to answer. I just want her to collaborate and hop on here so badly. Yes, his picture leaves your soul a little bit shaken there.
I love being able to throw these comments up.
It is quite nice because for me, with not
Yeah,
being on a computer, like,
right. That way you can see them.
right. Boom. Renee. Renee. Yes. Okay. So,
Boom.
exactly.
She just set a
Exactly.
nuke off.
So, he had an 85 Econoline that he had actually dubbed the Murder Mobile. Now, as Keith and I were talking the other night, initially, when I started the premise of this whole show and thought process, I swore that I was not even going to disclose to Keith the name or any details about who we were going to discuss. So that way he could collaborate like within, the shock factor is everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. On future ones, I'm going to be coming in blind a lot of the time. I won't even know who we're going to be talking about.
Exactly. So as we started drawing some parallels, there's going to be a lot of synchronicities because this was just too coincidental to pass up. And Renee, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about being that ancestor. So we all know that there's a correlation or a thought or a theory process between H. Holmes and Jack the Ripper. That theory has been thrown out plausibly more than once. So it's awful odd that you would have a guy who essentially has the same MO. You've got Jack the Ripper. Well, now you have this gentleman who calls himself the Sick Ripper. You have the murder castle. You have a murder mobile.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little transcendent. In his interview, Bill had actually turned around and had said that there's a monster inside of him. So obviously alluding to the factor of a
Possession.
possession.
If not a possession, a very severe oppression. But I'm thinking, by the looks of his eyes, I'm thinking possession.
Yeah, he's not one that you want to stare at long.
No.
So with this gentleman, as we're gonna go through the line, I kind of got these facts. They're not all sequential in time order, so do forgive me. But I'm kind of a squirrel like that, and that's probably why y'all like hanging out with us.
Don't. I squirrel. Don't worry. I squirrel all the time. Shiny.
Yeah. You
You all right?
yeah, I just gotta. I'm sorry. These things just happen. I apologize.
You're fine. Just with the subject we're talking about, I just want to make sure you're okay.
Yeah, I'm okay. I just, got my little all is well. Okay, so we have that we are aware of, mind you, 7 victims that we are aware of.
Right.
This gentleman was known as a drifter. In fact, if you try to do much homework, which I've now started on, we're trying to correlate some sort of ancestral background because this gentleman does not talk about siblings. He's very much a loner. So we've got a drifter who actually spans 4 states. So,
Again, 7 victims, 4 states. We got 11 again.
7 victims. We got the span of 4 states. And what's interesting is that we actually have our first victim, whom half of her was left in one state, half of her was in another.
It's 7:55.
Yes, 7:55. 7:55. All right. So the other correlation between our sick Ripper and Jack the Ripper is that upon this interview for his 7 victims, they all had attributes of substance abuse and prostitution, unfortunately. In fact, he goes to address that in his final statement, which we're not to yet, but I promise I will get it to you. So it's interesting that you would have a gentleman who has 7 victims, but he has 6 consecutive life sentences and only 1 sentencing for 15-year manslaughter. As we start to get into these findings,
Night, Christy. Thanks for popping on.
It gets a little bit shifty. Night, Christy. Thank you. They're kind of scattered, and what's really sad about these victims, because this show is for them, oftentimes more than it is bringing attention to the murderer themselves.
Yeah, because a lot of times these victims are forgotten about too.
Right. Widely, because when you think about substance abuse and prostitution being a thing, it's rough. It actually took 8 years for these 7 victims to be recovered. It was an 8-year recovery. They were all centrally located in one spot that Bill actually dubbed his garden. The way that the first victim was found was a hunter was going through.
Hang on.
Yes.
Hang on, because you can't make this up. the hawk that Spirit gave me and the owl that Spirit gave me, so I could have the feathers to help our clients. Where do you think I laid the rest of their remains to rest? In my garden, deep enough so the tiller won't hit.
Well, you really
And
can't
my
make
left.
this up. It's funny as we find these correlations, which is the whole basis of doing this too. Is these things are going to come out often without being discussed previously. Except this, like I said, this, when I was jotting down everything of the poignant facts that I wanted to discuss, I started to sequence things together and I'm like, oh my God, I got to call Keith. In fact, I called him like 11 or after 11 that night.
Yeah, what time do we finally?
We didn't get done
What time
until
we
1
finally
in the
get off the
morning.
phone? Yeah, yeah, we couldn't stop.
No. The numbers just kept running and the things that you just go through. But yes, so he had his garden. And yes, Renee, he was actually apprehended right there in Connecticut. And his apprehension actually is also quite, I don't want to say odd, but, the circumstances are very strange. So he had made a minor traffic violation and the cops pulled him over, really being none the wiser, right? He's in a different state. He had a warrant out for his arrest. And they were told or given instructions to actually keep him there. And they were so terrified that he was going to run while they waited for Virginia police. I think it was Virginia. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that one. But for another state's police to actually come and apprehend him. So
And
they
there's
kept
another
him.
correlation right there. Yeah, the Virginia. There's another correlation.
Yes. So the song and my daughter. It's weird. So I had mentioned that we had 4 states to cover. With him being a drifter, he was originally born in Virginia. He's also got Connecticut, Florida, and North Carolina. Now, that's almost like the eastern seaboard. Okay. Does he really have only 7 victims? That's a great question. Because when they apprehended him and they actually got him in jail, he actually took a plea. He made a plea. He took the Alford plea. See, Renee, girl, we gotta talk. We gotta talk. He made an
Hey,
Alford
Sharon,
plea.
and you want to explain what
And
that is?
hey, Sharon. Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm totally gonna go into that.
Okay.
So, what the Alford plea basically is in court means that you're not admitting to committing an actual murder or by doing any wrong, right? But you know that there's enough evidence to get you convicted. So, what you're saying is, hey, I know I'm not guilty, but what you find is probably going to get me in trouble, but I'm still not going to admit. Odd little things you learn about these little court findings here.
There you go.
Um the span before we get into the victims because they definitely deserve a mention. One thing that with his conviction, he was arrested when he was 35, convicted at 47.
Okay. So 35 and 47. We have 8 and 11 again.
Can't make this stuff up.
Mm-mm.
Out of those 7 victims, 6 of them were female. 1 was transgendered. So initially, he didn't know that the transgendered male was a male. And he actually admits to killing him just straight off. The moment that he found out, that was it. Game over. Okay. So kind of an unintentional thing there. So we have all of his murders for his garden in Connecticut all happened in the year of 2003. And they kind of are sequential, so we're going to go through them just very lightly here.
Okay.
And the numbers within them are interesting themselves. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to give last names. I'm just going to go first. I didn't want too much, I mean, obviously you can do your own investigating and your own looking if you're truly curious.
Sure, but we want to give them some respect and some privacy as well.
Exactly. The families, reading, victim statements from families, it's a very unrested thing.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, in one of his statements going through the court proceedings, he had said that, he wouldn't blame anybody if they all wanted him to die, that he felt like he should get the death penalty. Unfortunately for Bill, the death penalty there was eliminated in 2015, and his conviction didn't come until 2017. So it was a very unsettled, very unrested case, but yet he wanted it to go expediently so that none of the victims' families had to suffer through all of the details.
So there was at least some remorse in a way.
Right. Along with the incriminating evidence, there were also 6 videotapes of sexual bizarre nature that, would ensue during the trial. So it is kind of, I tread lightly with this one. We've got our first victim. On January 1st of 2003, her name's Melanie, was when she actually disappeared.
What year?
She was 29 years old.
Melanie or Melody?
Melanie. Like I said, they all have substance abuse history. So every single one of them, and or prostitution. So they were likely lured to him, in the promise of maybe like a drug deal or what have you. Okay.
Okay.
Her body actually wasn't recovered until 2015. Now, there's 3 victims, I believe, that were recovered in 2015. So that's going to be a repeating thing. Again, they were all within this garden.
There were 3?
3.
Okay. Well, just 15, not 2015, but just 15. That's 6. So you got 666 right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3 twos, it's another 6.
Yeah. We have Janice, who is also known as Danny, obviously the transgender.
Okay. Is that number 2?
That's number 2. Reported missing on June 18th of 2003. Danny was 44.
4 and 4 is 8.
We have Diane, who disappeared on July 9th of 2003. She's 55. She was recovered in 2007, but wasn't identified until 2011. There's reasons.
11.
Then we've got Nilsa. She was reported missing on July 31st of 2003. Her body also wouldn't be recovered until 2015.
Okay. So we got June, July, and July.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you remember, most of these are going to be found within the same time span because of their proximity to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll dive into their recoveries as we progress, because that is kind of a punctual thing for the numbers too.
Right.
We've got Marilyn. Marilyn's 26. She went up missing in 2003. Her estimated date is 10/10/2003.
Okay. The 1010.
Actually,
Right.
no, not her. Marilyn.
Her?
They don't give her an approximation date on
Okay.
when she disappeared. They're not
Okay.
disclosing it, but she is 26.
Okay.
The 10/10 is the next one. So sorry.
That's okay.
Apologies, friends.
We'll get there.
Yep, Renee, exactly. Exactly. 4/28/2015. You've got Joyveline. She was reported missing March 29th of 2004. However, she actually went missing 10/10 of 2003.
Okay.
So there's a gap of time.
And what was her name again?
Joyveline. Joyvaline.
Okay.
They made her recovery in 2007, but they couldn't identify her until 2013.
Okay. The 1010 is interesting. My dad was born on 1010, and I'm driving home tonight. I'm running late. I had to go get mom groceries. It took longer at the store and the checkout, and we had to take her home. Carry everything inside. I'm trying to hustle, and I pull up behind this vehicle at the main stoplight right in the middle of town, and I look up. And I just sat there and stared at this license plate. I had to send it to Michelle. On this license plate, and my dad's been popping in. He's passed, but he's been popping in every once in a while. It's WLY space 462, and the little date tag is 8. It's yellow. So you got 4 and 6 is 10, 2 and 8 is 10. WLY, Willie. My dad's name was Willie. Willie 1010. You can't make it up. It's right there. You can't really see it, but it's right there.
Yeah, these things are pretty sequential. Our last victim doesn't really fit the mode because, as I said, all of our victims had substance abuse problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, October of 2003, a 40-year-old named Mary Jane, actually, she went up missing. She was also recovered in 2007. But she was a substance abuse counselor.
Mm.
So she's different than the rest.
Hey, Howie. How you
Hi,
doing,
Howie.
man? Glad you got up in here.
And while I'm thinking about it, because I just saw Sharon's comment. Sharon, are you still on? If you are, let me know if Charlie's wanting to hop on. We didn't know if there was like any conflicting things going on with him. He said he might have somebody from the family stop by, and then we ran late, and you know how that goes. So all of our victims within the garden, they were actually found behind a shopping plaza, which is, a bit of a marshy swamp area. They were discovered 2007. A hunter was actually scoping out some land, and he found the skull. Now, all of these victims weren't found at once. They were found in 3 different sequences or stages. You had your first initial victim that was found by the hunter. They obviously didn't canvass the entire area. Like I said, it deemed out to be an 8-year recovery to get all of these victims recovered and identified, for that matter. The reason why they had such an issue identifying these folks, yes, 8-year recovery. The reason why they had such a hard time was because William actually took some measures on his initial victims to try to conceal their identities. Um, in fact, his first victim, he had actually cut off all of her fingertips and then removed her bottom jaw and teeth so that she essentially would be unidentifiable.
I've done a record.
The jaw and the fingertips he had reportedly put in a shopping bag and threw into a trash bin in front of a store in Virginia. He had 2 weeks because he stated it was too cold to actually bury her. It was 2 weeks that he kept her in his van wrapped in plastic. And he slept next to that dead body for 2 weeks until he could get to Connecticut and bury it. He also referred to his first victim as Baby. So that was one of the more disturbing facts to know. So he did things exactly to try to conceal their identities, which is rather unfortunate.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
that's
making me
morbid.
nauseous thinking about it
I know.
personally.
Yeah.
So when he got pulled over, yep, he called her Baby. When he was pulled over there in North Carolina, when the police apprehended his van because they had the warrant for his, arrest, and they had the warrant to seize his property. It was said that the seat cushions had been removed, so they weren't in their same spot. However, they still remained within the van, and they were completely blood soaked with the DNA of all 7 victims in them.
So he never cleaned nothing up, really.
Nope. And they also found the blood and the DNA under the carpet of the van because it was an Econoline. So it
Yeah.
wasn't, and it was something that he slept in because he was a drifter. So that was his home. Really gross.
I can't imagine that.
No, no. Um, During the trials, like I said, he sadly, uh, his MO was to rape them, assault them, strangle them. There's only one victim that actually got hit in the head with a hammer. And again, I'm not disclosing who. I just out of respect. Um, and he had said that when he had, hit the victim in the head, that it didn't knock her out, but she did beg for her life, and then he strangled her. He said with every victim that he ended up strangling, he would just repeatedly overly say, "Please just die, please just die, please just die." So he wanted it to go quickly.
Over and done.
He wanted it over and done, much like his court case and his conviction. What kind of blew the case a little bit wide open, what helped the police obtain, the search warrants, is that Nilsa, I believe she's our 4th victim in the lineup of things. Her
Okay.
boyfriend was actually a convicted drug dealer and was serving some time. Well, she happened to be hanging out with her sister's boyfriend, and they had hung out with William together. And of course, substance abuse comes into play. So, they were at a hotel getting high, if you will.
Hmm.
And he actually witnessed her getting in his van and leaving with him. So you had an eyewitness account. They actually offered a $50,000 reward for his capture and her being found.
Okay.
So she's kind of like the whole reason, why there's only 6 consecutive life sentences and then one 15-year manslaughter charge.
Okay.
Uh, she falls under the 15-year manslaughter charge. Don't ask why.
Okay. I won't.
Um, yeah. So as he went about sexually assaulting these women, there was only one to be found that he actually, which we talked about the other night, had used an automotive shock absorber, which is just, like I
Sick
said,
bastard.
his acts were just very unusual.
It sounds like it was just to torture, along with
Right,
everything else. I mean, that's
right. So the police actually, when he was in jail, he got a cellmate that was actually a triple murderer himself. Unknown to William, this cellmate that he had was a snitch. And so, as he was feeding him all of these details, that cellmate was actually able to turn around to police and give no less than a 13-page affidavit and a detailed map of where the bodies were buried within this garden.
that's phenomenal.
And that is how they all came to be found in one foul swoop.
So if he wouldn't have ended up in that particular cell with that particular cellmate, they may not have ever found the rest of the victims.
Right, right. Now I did promise you some good numbers here. His final conviction, when things concluded, was 11/17 of 2017. This is going to sound weird, guys. I apologize. This happens often. Keith, do you have your ghost radar on?
Yes.
Did it just say a word?
Oh, it's been saying the word. One it just said was grab cord.
Okay.
You can't make it up.
That's the only one that I heard so far.
Can you see it? No, it's too bright. Can't read it.
That's yeah. I heard it and I
Um,
had to clarify.
what's come out was standard weight. So were all these victims about like maybe the same size, a standard weight, standard size?
They could have been.
Um, the word nor, I don't know about that, but then grab cord. And to us, that makes perfect sense. And a cord is not sharp, it's dull.
Yeah. Now, I always mention that that there are novels out on these killers, and there are. The one that is out for him was written by Anne Howard. She interviewed him July of 2015, and it is a very graphic novel to put out censorship there. It's called His Garden Conversations with a Serial Killer.
Speak.
There we go. As far as numbers for you, Mr. Keith, I have his booking number. So that beautiful little number that shows up under your mugshot. Are you ready?
I am.
All right. It's 154-291 091815. He also has an inmate number. During the court proceedings, the prosecutor never referred to William by his name. He only called him inmate number 3015917.
Eight on that last number. Comes up to 8. Let's see. 9, 10, 12, 21, 22, 31, 32, 40, 41, 46, 10. The first number comes up to 10.
Now, he did have a quote. As we know, everybody gets their say in court. Now, last week we talked about Jubert and his not so much so, remorseful statement to the families. Mr. William decided to make his quote or his statement and said plainly, the victims should have known they were going to die because of the lifestyles they led. And he wouldn't blame anybody if they wanted him dead. In fact, he feels he deserves the death penalty.
So again, there's at least some kind of remorse. And I can tell you when I had my possession, I would go through stages.
Mm-hmm.
Some stages I had feelings. Some stages I did not have feelings. Nothing bothered me. There was no love. There was no, I was just dead, live but dead. I mean, nothing. I was just kind of a zombie, going through life. Those are the times I really don't remember a lot from. I'm trying to stop using that word, but all my words want to come out at once, and that's kind of my trigger to pick one to say. And I know it's not a good thing to do on shows and stuff like that, but it's how I've learned to deal with the way my mind works.
Well, and I mean, we all have things. I get it. We all get it. I mean, we've been with you for a while now.
Well, yes, you have. And you stuck with me.
After his lovely little statement there, he does have health issues. So it was found, he's got some diabetes going on, some things he's really not taking care of. He goes on to say, I'll die a slow, miserable death in prison, and I hope that gives you all comfort.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, is that remorse or maybe a little bit of gaslighting? I mean, not gaslighting, but just telling them what they want to hear. That's kind of coming in more that he was just telling them what what he thought they would want to hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the victim's statements are really heartbreaking to read. Sometimes forgiveness isn't the easiest of things. I'm not certain, if they're there. What he does have in common with Jubert is that he was another killer who primarily killed to conceal the acts of what he had done. At any point, they had an opportunity to release their victims. They didn't have to follow through.
Yeah, they didn't want to get caught, so they killed them.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's a sad thing. I hate to think about that. When
Right.
they asked him, why, why his targets, or why did he select who he selected, and he just primarily said, "I hate prostitutes," which is another cold strand that runs between Jack the Ripper and the Sick Ripper.
Hmm.
Those were primary targets.
Is there any information that he studied Jack the Ripper at all?
None that alludes to it. So,
Okay.
being on the East Coast, I'm almost certain that the knowledge is there,
Sure.
because that's just kind of a thing. Um, Claiming that he had a monster inside of him, which, I mean, I think to a degree, if you're going to commit acts of murder of any sort, you got to have something up with you.
Right. Right. And while we're talking about, the similarities with, Jack the Ripper, um, who they think moved over here to the States and called himself H. Holmes. Okay. Um, I had the pleasure of meeting H. Holmes' great grandson, Jeff Mudgett. Had some very interesting, conversations with him. And if you want to learn some more about Holmes, Jack the Ripper, Lorelei Bigar, she has, I can't ever say her name right. She's got a couple web pages up, and she talks a lot about that. She is a plethora of knowledge. If you watch, my feeds, my pages at all, I will throw links to her live feeds out. Very awesome person.
Yeah, again, not to say any more, but she was actually the one who helped breathe life into my wind cells. For various reasons, I had given myself enough reasons to walk away from the small killers, and bringing light to the victims, or helping find correlations, or just picking these things apart. And I simply remember talking to her, with you,
Yeah,
and
we had a
her
conversation with her
saying,
about it.
"Yeah, girl, do it.
Do it, get it done.
Just do what you need to do."
Yeah,
And she is. She's a huge inspiration.
for me too. When Steve from the mechanics was up here, and he was going to do his live feed that he does, and he threw me in the chair and said, "Nope, you're doing it tonight." And I'm like, "What? No, no." I about peed my pants. Because I've never been a public speaker. So nervous I sweat bullets, but he got me to doing this. Lorelei helped me do this. She actually helped me set up my Otter Den page. She designed my logo. So I'm very appreciative to her, because if it wasn't for Steve, if it wasn't for Lorelei, I might not be doing this. Now I like doing it. It's
Exactly.
fun.
Yeah. If it wasn't for
I
her,
have fun doing it.
pushing me to this direction, I would have just let it go and let it, whatever. Fate is what it
Same here.
is.
I just
But
sat in my familiar zone, aka
yeah.
comfort zone,
Yep.
and I wouldn't have the growth that I have now. I'd still be way back there instead of way up here. I know that.
I mean, exactly. Going through this, with this being my second go round, there's obviously huge connections that I was able to sequence together a whole lot better,
Hmm.
than I have any others. So much so that, it warranted a call at 11 o'clock at night.
Absolutely.
I
And I
was
got to
so
point
very
something out.
excited.
Right now, we got 4 people watching on the Otter's Den. We got 4 people watching on the Cobra Repair page. That's 8. There's another 8. And as soon as I threw that out, it changed to 9.
Eight's a resounding number. So, do we have anyone who wants to add in some comments? Our chat board is a little quiet here.
Yeah, it is. That's all right, though. I get it. Anybody got any questions? Anybody have any other facts that we didn't throw out? facts, figures, years, dates, anything.
At his apprehension, just one little fun fact. Not that it's fun. He did say that he had intended to go cross country and commit more murders. That was his plan.
See, I'm
Which
thinking
is why
there's
you have
another.
to question: is it really only 7?
I'm getting at least 11. I
How
am.
many
This whole
people?
chat.
Yeah, how many people in 2003 went missing?
Yeah.
Or even the time in between him drifting from Virginia all the way to Florida. I mean, he drove a van and he did, promoted lawn service on the side of it. So random people, hey, you need lawn service done? Yeah, sure. I'll come over and I'll do it. Not a problem. How do you know
And
that's
I
not a victim?
right. Yeah, I'm getting at least 11. Um, maybe he had another garden somewhere.
Exactly.
Um,
Uh, but again, he's also one that's not really going to speak outside of the realm of what he's already been caught with.
right. Yeah, he's not going to admit to anything that they haven't found,
Nope. I
which
mean,
is
him
another.
taking, him enacting the Alford plea was more than enough to say, hey, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not
Yeah.
admitting anything. In fact, one of his initial statements was, I'm not speaking to you without my lawyer present. He already knew he was done and guilty,
Oh
but
yeah.
he wasn't going to let that story come as easy. You know, uh,
Made him work
Stark
for it.
contrast from Jubert, last week's episode. Jubert was very forthcoming with everything. He was in hopes, I'm certain, of getting some sort of plea deal. Jubert was afraid of death. He tried to get that overturned so many times unsuccessfully, obviously,
Yeah.
uh, due to the sadistic nature of his crimes. But he was afraid of death. To go back to that, last week somebody had asked in our comment board about there being, if he had a girlfriend. I did find out last week that actually he was engaged to a gal from Ireland. However,
Jupiter was.
Jubert, yes. They were nothing more than like pen pals. She would come see him.
Okay.
She'd visit him, but she didn't meet him until after he was already in jail.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Surely she didn't continue the relationship, did she?
all the way until the day that he died. hmm In fact, she helped him file for his various appeals. Yeah. hmm
I
It takes
I, I
it takes
can't
all kinds, right?
I can't even fathom how somebody could do that with the amount of evidence they had.
Right. And his argument was always, I told you everything. I gave you everything. I gave you every detail. I gave you everything you ever wanted to know. Unfortunately, that was a very if any of y'all had, you know, privy to any of those files for that Jubert case.
Yeah.
No detail was left undisclosed. It's tragically heartbreaking. If you're an empath, I don't recommend, because it'll keep you up. It'll keep you up for hours, and furthermore, not just on the empathy level, but parental. You
Yeah.
know, those parents and the victim families had to endure, just like this gentleman. They had to endure not only um the details of these crimes that he did. He did speak about them. He did say what happened. He said what he done.
hmm
uh it was said that when the cops had recovered everything and conducted the investigation, one of his statements was, it's funny that the cops think that I only raped 3 victims and assaulted 1, when in fact I raped them all. So, remorse isn't really within this guy's nature. And if it is, it's just a narcissistic tendency to try to, you know, I'm sure he's hoping for the death penalty. It's not going to come.
No, no, he's going to sit there and suffer and think about what he did. It's not going to bother him,
Nope.
but he's just going to sit there in that cell for the rest of his life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, and so some of the, the correlations we're hoping to make with this gentleman, or even with the help of you folks, if this is your kind of thing,
Yeah.
uh, is to, correlate the timeline. Are there other victims, perhaps in Florida, perhaps more in Virginia? In between, that's quite a distance to be driving and only have a spree
Mm-hmm.
in 1 year. What is that, 6 months?
Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to find out his route of travel, because if we could nail that down, that's going to narrow things down even more. Because we could find out if there's any missing victims, on that route.
Mm-hmm. Perhaps. Yeah, Renee, I had kind of wondered about all of that. So they don't go into it. And, most, Jubert's Otter, when she had, or when he, sorry, my apologies, had access to doing that interview to write that book or that story, Jubert was very open about talking about his family life, his childhood, everything. This gentleman, not so much so. He was very much known as a drifter. He just drifted wherever life took him. It took him. No place to call, solid home. I think,
No,
obviously, huh?
is the drifting thing, is that common with a lot of these smaller serial killers, or just prevalent to this one?
There's a common thread between a few of them.
Okay.
Yes. Some of them are more, they are connected, but what you find, or what I have found in my own research, and even tallying up the list of the ones that, that we're going to disclose future down the road, all of them always leave the state where their initial crime was enacted. They don't want, they don't
Okay.
obviously want to they can't get caught if they're not where they committed that first crime.
Right. So they commit that crime and then hightail it out.
Right. Kind of, just like Jubert, our first guy. He was up there in Maine, got himself into the military, got over here, to Nebraska. William committed his first crime up there in Virginia. He didn't bury that poor girl's
Yeah.
body until he was finally in Connecticut.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wait, that's kind of another similarity we have with our case here. The freezer.
Mm-hmm.
Man, this is nuts.
I know this one kind of rocked me a little more than some of the others that for me,
Yeah.
call me an oddball. I can't watch it. I can't watch these things happen on TV. I can't, movies. I just get hyper triggered, if you will. Reading about it
I know what you're talking
is
about.
not so much impactful for me, but this one was, just because
Okay.
of so many connections that we had made personally within, our own case, within, extending it out, beyond, like, the Jack the Ripper and H.H. Holmes
Yeah.
connection. Like, it was just mind blowing going through the details.
Yeah. Yeah. Our connection with Jeff Mudgett and Lorelei. I mean, it's like, okay, yeah, this is something that we're supposed to be looking into.
Now look at that. So Renee just threw up a comment here. Arrested on larceny and burglary in Virginia, Georgia, and Jersey. Now, Jersey in the court findings, it's not even mentioned. They don't even bring relevancy to Jersey. So he pretty much had a canvas for the Eastern Seaboard. And what connections haven't been made there?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the interesting correlations that we're going to be able to
Where's
make.
my family from? Germany.
You know, and it's funny because I didn't set out intentionally. Like, honestly, when we developed this concept and we started going through this concept, I very much took every single name that I had within my list and threw it into a bucket and pluck it out. Okay, this is who it's going to be. So what's interesting is that,
Mm-hmm.
last week we had Maine. This week,
Mm-hmm.
yes, Hamilton. Oh, girl. Now we have one in Virginia. So it's like we're starting out on the East Coast. Is there a pattern that's going to emerge out of all of this? Quite possibly.
Maybe we might have to start keeping
We
whiteboards on the walls.
Every
Just saying.
inch will be filled with all of these notes. But yeah, getting his route, if it's
Well,
ever
I got some wall
disclosed,
space.
would be, an interesting thing to follow. What would also be interesting
Would be.
is not that I would ever have the cojones, if you will, to do so, but access to actually speak to these people, with him still being alive and not having the death penalty available, that's still an overall possibility.
And see, I'm not gonna toot my own horn because it's kind of weird in the way I'm thinking about this. I might be the perfect people to talk to these people. Perfect people, perfect person to talk to these people because
We've talked about that.
I've been in their shoes. I have been possessed. I have had those exact thoughts that they carried out. Not proud of that fact, but they happen. It was a very interesting healing process to not let those things bother me anymore. Um, so that's an interesting concept because I could get down and dirty with them.
Yeah.
I could get them talking. Hmm. And
Might have
again,
to delve into that one a little bit deeper.
yeah, that's one thing I want to do on this case here. I want to get in there and I want to sit him down and I want to talk to him.
Yeah, it's interesting when you start to think about the oddities of thought processes for folks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an overthinker by nature, so I will analyze every detail. The way that you look
Scorpio.
at me, the way that you move, the pitch and tone of your voice, everything I will just analyze. And yeah, that's kind of one of the things, unfortunately, if I were able to do an interview, I would be reading all of those and going,
You're gonna be reading energies pretty soon.
I would be stuck in a thought circle. And yes, Renee, the East Coast does a little something to folks. Funny story. I had taken a completely off topic here, taken a drive with my cousin. I had an aunt and uncle that lived in New Hampshire, and we had to make it there. And we made it to New Hampshire. One of the stops we made was in Jersey. And I don't know if we just weren't in a very good part of town, which is exactly possible. But I remember looking at my cousin and saying, "Get me out of here." I could not do it. And we hauled all the way over to New Hampshire, made it there by about 3 in the morning. My aunt had made me a patty melt, but the only thing I remember from that trip is an excruciating migraine in Jersey. And then also puking all over my brand new car, and my little cousin in the back seat asking me, "Did you puke in the chip bag? Because I'm hungry." I said, "No, I didn't." And I handed him the chips. Yeah, that was a rough haul. Rough.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was definite a definite interesting trip. You know what, Renee, I'll put that name on my list. But I'm telling you, we need to talk. Our little vibe going on here ain't just a thing, sister. It ain't
You,
just a thing,
you,
okay?
you think?
Yeah. Um yeah, I mean that about concludes what we all got. Did you want to send a note off to our special potential guest?
Which one?
The one that we talked about last night?
Oh,
Bringing.
yeah. Let's let him have his piece tonight.
Okay.
Otherwise, he
Keith,
probably would have jumped on here
you
already.
got her number.
I do. I got her number. It's in my
Perfect.
phone. Yep.
It's shareable.
Yep. We had some chats.
Renee, we would probably never get sleep. Just saying, girl.
That'd be quite the conversation.
Really would be. I mean, like a lot of these would be quite the conversation. As we go further down the line, obviously, I have a few that are a little more intrinsic, or, they have a little more depth to their thinking pattern. So you'll find as we go into the future that, some of them seem pretty knock out of the park easy, right? Easy to peg, easy to think about.
Hmm?
I do have a couple of them that are gonna make you go, "What?"
You're gonna have to dig deep.
Yeah, yeah. Like it's gonna make zero sense. A lot of it makes zero sense, but when
Well,
you've been in that
their
position,
their
sometimes
minds work differently.
they do, and we've talked about, and I will not, I won't rehash it, all over again. But mental health, it's a really undervalued thing.
Yes, it is.
You know, human
It
mind
is.
can only take so much before it goes pop. We're done.
You're not wrong there. You're not wrong at all. Been
You
there,
know,
done that.
could have been a complete case here. You've got a gentleman who, within a 6 month time span, committed 7 murders, right?
Hmm.
So, what was a breaking point? Was there a breaking point, or was this something that was always just there?
Well,
Those are the
yeah,
questions. Those are the questions that I would dive a little bit deeper into.
yeah. Did he always have these kind of thoughts and just finally hit us and just finally snapped, or was it just something jumped inside him that day and boom, there it was?
Right. Or very much like Jubert. Like Jubert wasn't a canvasser. He didn't canvas or stalk the prey. He saw, he liked, he took.
Opportunity.
Um, right, opportunity. Exactly. Exactly. Some of these people, obviously a little research went into these 7 victims that we discussed this evening. Because, communication had to have been there. If we're talking about
Yeah,
substance abuse, and that likely being the lure of getting them to that vehicle, prostitution.
yeah.
There's obviously a little bit of homework that goes into that kind of thing.
some cruising around, canvassing the area, seeing
Mhm.
who's hanging out, where, what time the cops drive by.
Exactly, especially if you're not native to that area.
Yeah.
I don't know how
What
long
kind?
Renee, do you know how long he actually lived there? Or how long he was, a resident drifter? Because obviously, being a drifter, you already know you're canvassing the area. That's a foregone conclusion.
Yeah.
You don't even have to ask that question.
And again, like we said last week, this is one reason why you always want to be aware of your surroundings.
Yep.
Um, as you're walking down the street, don't be staring at your phone. Scan where you're walking to. Okay, there's an alley. Maybe I need to walk out this way a little bit so I'm not right by it. Is there an escape point if something happens, at this intersection? Um, Train your mind to start thinking like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Um, I mean, I told you the story about me being followed for 2 weeks and not being none the wiser, and that
Mhm.
was mere fluke, and I didn't even know about it until my parents told me not even a few years ago. And that gave me the realization that I coast on autopilot, literally.
I do sometimes too. Your mind's thinking about something else. Your day at work, what have you. It's easy to lose track of your surroundings and who's following you. That's why it's better to start training. Even a quick glance up every once in a while. Okay, there's an alley.
Yeah.
I can get across the street over here.
Yeah, even when we had the rioting and stuff going on here, protests of the destructive variety.
Yeah,
I was very aware of who was around me, what my exit point was, or
absolutely.
what my exit plan was. I
Yep.
mean, those are
The
things you just have to think of.
I will say this: Michael has two cool nicknames too. The Egg. I don't even know how to
Mawand,
pronounce that. And the Roadside Strangler. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. I will kill it.
Mawand. Am I saying it right?
And I
That
don't know
has
how to
to
pronounce it.
derive from somewhere.
Something.
Yeah,
Africa, maybe? I don't know.
possible. Tribal.
Oh, Eggman. Okay, Eggman.
Speaking of, we've had, that's funny that you say that. We have had a unfortunate egging going on in our neighborhood here as we near Halloween. That always seems to be the trend.
Yep.
But break-ins in vehicles, and I am notorious for leaving my stuff in the car.
Even here in
Especially,
Wymore, I bring everything in and I leave my vehicles unlocked. That way they don't have
oh,
to bust the windows to find nothing.
yeah. Oh yeah, I don't lock it. Stupidly. I am getting into a better habit of bringing in my wallet that I leave sitting in the front seat, though. Let me tell you.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Any other comments, questions,
Last
anything
call.
you would like to see next week or hear about next week? Are you wanting more details, less details? Feedback.
More gore, less gore.
Yeah. And that's what it boils down to. Do you want more details on the cases, or do you like the PG-13 run of the mill?
8x11 glossy photos with pictures and arrows on the back of each one. Alice's Restaurant.
Speaking of this, we did promise you all that we were going to go out to the Jubert locations. We will get that on the calendar. That is not a forgotten thing. We had a couple of things happen to pop up, and we didn't make last weekend happen, but we will get to those locations and live stream for you guys.
Yep, it wasn't today. Spirit said, nope, not today.
In many ways.
May have been a very specific reason why. When it's time, we'll both be able to get there.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I've learned. If you're kept from going to do something, let it go, let it flow. Do something else that day.
Yeah.
There's a reason.
I know, just like my spur of the moment taking tomorrow off. I'm very much looking forward to my day off.
Enjoy it, girl.
Talking about it. I'm so very proud that I actually took a day off for non-health related issues.
I am proud of you too. I really am. I'm actually proud of myself for once. I did what I needed to do last night.
You sure did. I saw. Or again, last shout out here. If any of you want to collaborate on any of this stuff, Renee, I see you in my future. This is going to happen.
We're going to get you on here, girl. Just saying.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. You're going to be more than just a chat.
We're going to have her little face right up there beside ours. Right on that screen. The Eggman. Every time I read that, the Eggman, I think it. My brain goes to the Beatles song. I am the Eggman. I am the walrus.
Oh my goodness.
I'm shoving the Eggman in there. I don't even think that's one of the lyrics.
Notice that we don't have the YouTube generator popping on here tonight.
Yeah. I specifically waited to try to contact that person to see if that happened. And it didn't. So I will go back and do a search. I'm glad you reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, last week we had some very interesting comments popping up in our feed. And what's interesting about the fact that it was
did you see that last comment? Not to interrupt. William has 2 connected killings in New York, which actually does not pop up within his profile. So that,
ooh.
Thank you, Renee. I will do a little digging on those.
So there's 9. 2 more, we got 11.
Yep.
We may find more.
Very likely. This whole court case that I delved into was solely and proprietarily towards what he dubbed his garden. It was obviously his last intentional place to put everything. And I would be curious to know if anything from the New York victims popped up within possibly that garden, or maybe there's something that, just highly got overlooked. We discussed last week about how, sometimes these murderers actually keep trophies of their victims.
I think ours did.
I just gotta find it. Exactly. Some people can overlook even the simplest of things. Keys are being brought to mind. Yeah, rings, quarters. I mean, it could be so minuscule it means nothing to anybody else but them. We have a metal detector.
Yeah, I would love to get out that property and go over it. I want to get a better one. Maybe this spring I can get that done.
In time.
Mm-hmm. When it's time. All right, everybody. It is 9 o'clock. I have got a vehicle to go do some wrenching on. Not that I want it, but I got it. I got a couple people I got to reach out to, and so I'm going to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I really enjoyed this conversation. I really found a big interest in the numbers, how, everything led back to 8 and 11. Again, 11's my number. 11, 11, 69, power number 11. I live at the corner of 11, 11. You can't make it up.
Nope.
And 8 turned sideways is a sign for infinity. So with that, before I start
Yes.
letting other thoughts out and start going conspiracy theory, because this is not the page for that, we still need to work on that a little bit.
Oh yeah.
But the person I talked to about coming on the show, I am going to be in heaven. I'm going to be learning things.
You'll be doing just great.
I'll have to have me some mustard and biscuits.
Oh my gravy.
I might get hungry.
And yes, next week we are going to have a special guest on our show at the end of the segment. So it'll be something to look forward to.
Never know.
Exactly.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Michelle, I'll talk to you here in a minute. Don't hang up yet. Next week, same bat time, same bat channel, and we'll have a new subject and probably some new correlations and new numbers, and my mind's going to be blown by the time we're done again. So thank you for blowing my mind, Michelle.
You're very welcome.
All right. We'll see everybody later. Y'all have a good evening.